I'm gonna scoot by you. Thanks. Finally.
Are you ready?
I'm fine.
Okay, guys. Can I have your attention, please? Hello? All right. Okay, so we have Mr. Red Power here. He's come here all the way from Orlando, Florida. And he has been touring the country, well, sort of. Islamabad, Lahore, and now finally the best city, Karachi.
That's right.
So he's got lots of experience in entrepreneurship. Akash is going to do a formal intro. Akash, would you like to introduce?
Yes. So Power is part of the U.S. State Department's International Speakers Program. He is the Chief Strategist at Vodacom Innovation Park. And he's a co-founder of Wild Creations, which is one of the fastest growing companies in the US according to Inc. magazine. Also, he's written for publications like Wall Street Journal and Huffington Post. So it is our pleasure to welcome him. Can everyone please give him a round of applause?
I'm not dressed yet. Sorry. I'm getting there. I have wires everywhere now. That doesn't make for a good video. All right. Hello. Hi. That was not loud enough. Hi. That's the enthusiasm I expected here at the Nest. All right. So, as I was introduced, I am. If I had to give an elevator pitch right now, I would say I'm a serial entrepreneur, I'm a writer and author, and I'm a business coach, an executive coach, essentially, okay? And I do travel around the world. I'm fortunate enough to have lived in about 7 countries. I am fortunate enough to have traveled to about 70 countries. My business, before I sold it a couple years ago, we were operating in 35 countries. So I know a little bit about the context that you're operating in. And I was telling a group this morning, I'm a little OCD. Everybody know what that means? I'm sure you do. Okay. Well, I had been to every Stan country. I've been to all the Stans, except Pakistan. And it's been bothering me for about 15 years. So I can't tell you how excited I am to be here because I needed to check Pakistan off my list. And now I've done that. But I was pleasantly surprised when I got to Pakistan with the energy and the excitement and talking to people like you guys who are doing cool stuff, innovative stuff, world-class stuff. Okay? And so I'm really excited to sit here and talk to you today about entrepreneurship. And what I want to do, I think, is, thank you. I do want to thank the U.S. Embassy for giving me the opportunity to speak to you. I go on a couple, probably 4 or 5 programs a year with embassies around the world to talk to groups. So I'm very pleased that they invited me to come to Pakistan. Also want to thank the Nest for having me as well. So I have to get all the thank yous out of the way. But so I want to talk to you about a couple things today. I want to talk to you about my journey in entrepreneurship and tell you about that and why I chose entrepreneurship. And it's probably not the reasons, if you'd asked me 10 years ago or 15 years ago why I'm going to become an entrepreneur, I would have probably given you different answers. But I want to tell you about my journey. It's a good intro into my journey into entrepreneurship. And then I want to give you about 10 or 15 tips of things that you've probably already heard. People have probably told you 100 times. But I just want to reinforce some of those things when you start running your businesses that are critical for success. And I've been fortunate enough to be on the stage with some of the top names in business. I've been fortunate enough to interview in my articles some of the top people in business. And some of the things that we'll talk about today are some of the habits that I see typical in successful entrepreneurs. So let me start by saying this. Look, there's 75 million people around the world your age that are out of work. And my assumption is that it's probably higher than that. We probably don't know how high it is. It's probably closer to 100 million. And so in a lot of countries, I've got a project in Africa right now, in southern Africa. In that country, 50% of the young people are out of work. When you go to college, you're not guaranteed any sort of opportunity when you go to university. And so I believe that we've got to think about entrepreneurship as one of the answers to that big problem. And that's going to cause problems years from now, as people can't find work and they expect to find work and they can't. So that's one of the reasons I do these programs, is because I think we've got to have and push entrepreneurship as the answer to that big global problem. And it's not like, the world's not like it was when my father went to college and university. He was almost guaranteed, and I'm sure it's similar here in some instances, 40, 50 years ago, you were almost guaranteed a middle-class existence. He went to university, got a job, worked for the same place for 40 years. He was guaranteed a company pension, a state pension. My mother was the same way. She was a teacher. And so their life was very set. But I've never worked anywhere more than a couple of years, even in my own companies. And so that's our future, right? That's our future. So we have to, I think entrepreneurship can give you a good future. So where'd that thing go? Got it. So number one in my entrepreneurship journey, and the reason I chose entrepreneurship, is I like to be challenged. Has anybody ever worked for someone else? Were you challenged? Yes? Okay. For how long? Right? After a few months, at least for me, after I learned the job and learned what was expected, after a while, that's the reason I became an entrepreneur. I worked for USAID for a while. I worked for a big communications company for a while in the US. And my last job with USAID, I thought I had it made. I was getting paid to fill up passport pages. I was living in different parts of the world, making decent money, helping people. But there was something, have you ever felt that thing right here that said you weren't doing the right thing? Sort of that nagging feeling that's right there. Well, that's what I had. And I didn't really understand what that was, but when I became an entrepreneur, that light bulb went off and said, man, this is where you should be. You don't need to go anywhere else. You found what you're calling. So, and what I mean by that is, and what really makes me happy about being an entrepreneur is I'm challenged every day. There is something new, and it's tough. It's the hardest thing. Have you guys got ongoing businesses?
Yes.
Is it the hardest thing you've done?
Yes.
In many ways, right?
Yes.
Is it stressful?
Yes.
But would you do anything else right now? Yeah, I mean, that's the feeling you get, right? You're challenged on so many levels. And so I dig that. I really enjoy that, and I wouldn't change that. Number two, I can't describe to you what the feeling was like, and maybe you've experienced this. But I remember the first time I walked into a Toys R Us. My first company was a children's toy company. The first time I walked into a store, there's a big retailer called Toys R Us in the United States, one of the biggest toy retailers in the world. And I remember walking into the store, and my product was up on the shelf, something that I had drawn on a piece of paper about 16 months before. So bringing products to life and bringing things to life is something that will last a lifetime. I'm never going to forget that feeling. And so being in charge of your own destiny and bringing products to life and bringing solutions to your customers is an incredible feeling. Number three. Now, number three I wouldn't have thought about 10 years ago. It wasn't in my thinking. We located our business in a very economically depressed area. It was a very poor area, and we did it for business reasons because land was cheap, property was cheap, we needed a lot of warehouse space. We did it because labor was cheap. We did it for all the business reasons. But I didn't realize it until a little while later, a couple years later, when we had all of the people that were working with us and all of their families and their children. We had a big picnic and we had a big family gathering. And it really struck me that we were creating jobs. And those jobs were supporting families and they were supporting children, and that we did that. And that was a pretty powerful feeling that we were creating jobs and helping people in that way. That's something that might come later, but it is a feeling that you will have that you're really doing something special and helping people. And let's face it, the backbone of all economies around the world is small and medium-sized business. And so you're doing something good. Number four, who likes to lead? Who likes to follow? Okay, about half and half, right? Seriously, who likes to lead? Everybody like to lead? Okay. It's one of the reasons why I became an entrepreneur. Has anybody ever been in a job and they felt like they could do it better, but they had no power to make those changes?
Yes.
It's frustrating, isn't it? It's really frustrating. Well, guess what? As an entrepreneur, that's all on your shoulders. That's all right.
The HDMI cable.
Just the kite cable. All right. So that was number five. Let's move on. Number six. They come off there.
No, and the HDMI cable. Akash, the HDMI cable, because the TV was on, but
No, it's a TV you will do that.
All right, so number five is providing a better quality of life for your family. A couple things on that point. When I work for somebody else, or when you work for somebody else, do you have control of your time? Really? I remember for so long, you were nervous about taking vacation or holidays because you didn't want to miss something. You were attached to your phone. My phone, I don't know where my phone is, but you were attached to your phone 24 hours a day. If your boss emailed you at 11 p.m., there was an expected response, right? I remember my son is a pretty good soccer player, a football player, and not being able to go see a match, in the afternoon after school. So I was losing the things and the time. Nobody ever is on their deathbed and says, "I wish I'd spent more time at work." Right? So, I was missing the important things. And so as I've grown older and gotten a little more gray hair, I've realized that was an important part of why I want to be an entrepreneur and why I still am.
You're back.
All right.
thanks, guys.
Thank you. What I also realized was that number six, making others' life better through your products and services. I know that I am not going to cure cancer. I'm not going to cure the world problem of hunger and disease. But what my products, particularly when I was working with the toys, it was nothing better than to see a child smile. Nothing better than to see a child happy with a toy. So, in a sense, for me, it made me feel really good that we were making and bringing happiness to kids. And so that's another reason why I became an entrepreneur. Can anybody understand what I'm talking about here? Ruling the world and improving your own personal power. Increasing your personal power.
I think it's about self-actualization. When you reach a stage, you want to see how much potential do you have, and apart from impacting businesses, you really want to grow as a person.
That's close.
I think it's also about the impact that I can generate as a person, but then as a leader or an entrepreneur, the impact that I create that is much larger, and especially when business goes global.
You are the only person that nailed it for me. Thank you. Thank you. So I'll tell you a story. About 2011 or so, we were sitting in, I was sitting in my office, and as I was saying, we're in an economically depressed, our business is located in an economically depressed area. And my assistant comes in the door, and she says, "The governor is here." And I said, "The governor? What governor? Governor what?" And she said, "The governor." She's white, she's nervous. And, we know politicians, we know government. Like, if you want to go see the head of the city or the head of the state or whatever, you have to go to the Capitol, or you have to go to the big building up on the hill, and there's security, and there's all this, stuff. You have to know somebody probably to even do that. And so I was surprised a second later when the governor of our state pushed her way kind of around my assistant and had kind of barged into my office and said that she wanted to talk to us. And the reason she had wanted to talk to us is because we had just become the fastest growing company in the state. We had won one of the fastest growing companies in the U.S. Through Inc. magazine. We were starting to get some national attention. And she wanted to talk about economic development. She wanted to talk about what we were doing and how we were doing it. And what I realized after that, and in several other meetings after that, is that we could start having an impact on policy. Once we got some business credibility, and as we were building our business and we were successful, people started to listen to what we had to say. And so using that to influence good policy, using that for good, to raise money for charities, whatever it is you decide you want to use your influence for,